After a really warm weekend, we're now back to cold weather again. Very frustrating. Anyway, we can't do anything about it. So, what's happening in the world of politics? And thinking about A-level government and politics, we have something coming up that should excite every single person studying it. It excites me anyway. We've got a by-election coming up because Mike Amesbury has resigned from his seat. Runcorn and Helsby. Runcorn and Helsby. Got to get that name right. Except it's impossible. Did you know it's impossible to resign as an MP? It just can't be done. I've been checking this out. Here's what it says on the Parliament website. Why can't a member resign their seat? Under a resolution of the House of 2nd of March 1623, members of Parliament cannot directly resign their seats. Death, disqualification, elevation to peerage, becoming a lord, dissolution, general election, or expulsion are the only causes by which an MP's seat can be vacated. Therefore, a member wishing to resign has to be appointed to a paid office of the Crown. It's not paid anymore. Which automatically disqualifies the MP from holding a seat in the House of Commons. So basically, to get around the fact that you can't resign, they have to give you this office, this position, which disqualifies you so that you can resign, or so that you have resigned, basically. Why is British politics and our constitution so convoluted? Who knows? Right, so there are two offices that a MP that wants to resign can be appointed to. The first is the Crown Steward and Bailiff of the Three Chiltern Hundreds. That's the name of the position that you get put into. Or the Crown Steward and Bailiff of the Manor of Northstead. Mike Amesbury, I think, will be in the former. I think because he's the only one, I think it goes to that office first. So I think he will be the Crown Steward and Bailiff of the Three Chiltern Hundreds until the new MP is put in place. There we go. Crazy world, huh? It's up to the Prime Minister to decide when the by-election will take place. Mike Amesbury, I'm assuming, has decided to avoid the results of a recall petition. I suspect he probably knew what the results would be. Or maybe he's just realised that you can't go around punching people in the street and be an MP. Wouldn't that be nice? If he suddenly realised, actually, you've got to have some kind of standards to be in Parliament, that would be good. Maybe he's ashamed of what he did, or maybe he's not. Who knows? But either way, what a terrible way to behave while we're paying his salary. I'm glad he's gone. I think it's disgraceful. There we go. Aren't I rude about some of these people? So Mike Amesbury won. I'm just looking at the results now from the general election last year. He won massively. He won 52.9% of the vote. In ordinary circumstances, you'd think Labour would win. You know, they have won this seat well in the past as well. So it's, on paper, you would think, yeah, it's likely a Labour victory. But by-elections turnout can be very small. The turnout at the general election was only 58.7% of the electorate. It's going to be a lot less than that. People just will not come out in large numbers. However, there's a chance actually it might be better than normal, because I think the logical time to play to have this by-election would be the first week of May, the first Thursday in May, which is when we've got local elections. If there are local elections also in that constituency, not everybody has the local elections at the same time, then people might be might be turning out in relatively large numbers, but turnout for local elections is low as well. What I'm trying to get to here is that it makes this by-election incredibly unpredictable. Added to that, Reform came second at the general election. Labour has quite a few constituencies where Reform came second. So Reform will be thinking this is a key opportunity for them, even though they only got 18.1% of the vote last time. 7,600 people voted for Reform. We don't know what the turnout is going to be, but I imagine that Reform voters might be more willing to get out and vote because they want a specific change. They want Reform to be doing well, whereas Labour voters might just think, well, we've got a Labour government. Do we need a Labour MP? Does it really matter? Is it going to change things much? Not sure. So it could be all up for grabs. The Conservatives were in third on 6,700 votes, so they're not far behind Reform. So it could be a three-way battle between those three parties. Whether it matters a great deal if Labour loses it, in terms of their majority, it matters not at all. But it shows the direction the citizens are moving in if Reform win. But the Conservatives will also be thinking we've got a chance to get this. And we've seen in the last few days how Reform is having some internal tussles, let's put it that way. They're not quite tearing themselves apart yet. But when you've got a group of MPs that is only 5 and one of them has to go, partially because of internal disagreements, you're losing a large percentage of your MPs with that one withdrawing of the whip, Rupert Lowe going. So it's very difficult to know what's going to happen here. It's really interesting, and it's going to be something that you can monitor. You can see, if you're monitoring it closely in real time, potentially the government majority falling a little if Reform or the Conservatives win. Or we could see Labour hold on to that seat, which will seem like a victory. It's actually just one seat out of 650, but it feels like it will feel like a victory for Keir Starmer. And Keir Starmer's enjoying currently a little bit of a bounce in the polls, mainly because of foreign affairs rather than domestic affairs. It will fluctuate between now and this by-election. So we'll have to keep an interest in how it goes. I think that that's the last we'll see of Mike Amesbury anyway, isn't it? Which I'm sure nobody's very upset about that. That's the sort of thing that I'm thinking about today, keeping up to date with that by-election. I'm also thinking of doing some case studies that I can refer back to. I was thinking of doing a regular look at the terminally ill end-of-life bill, known as the assisted dying bill, because now that Parliament is getting back into that, it's going to be interesting to see how that develops. So I might do an update on that later this week. And who knows what else might crop up. Politics is always changing, and keeping up to date with the news is your way of finding examples, but also your way of seeing how the system works in practice. So watch out for that. Some case studies coming up. That'll be the first. I think the assisted dying issue will be the first one. And I will think of others as well. I might take a look at some general elections, and also by the end of the week, probably on Fridays, I will look at something a little bit different. I'm thinking of doing some episodes on TV dramas that are good to watch for politics, or films, that sort of thing. Probably starting with Our Friends in the North, which is available on the BBC iPlayer. And so there'll be more of that at some point. But in the meantime, a a bit of a shorter episode today. Get up to speed with that by-election. Learn as much as you can about it and follow the ins and outs of it, because it will, whenever it takes place, it will be a big moment. Most by-elections are not consequential in that they don't really change things. However, if you then suddenly get a few of them all indicating the same sort of pattern, that begins to shape up into a narrative. But we've only got one coming up, so I'm not expecting this to really change things unless it's a Reform victory. If it's a Reform victory, then it's clearly changing things in some order. If it's a Conservative victory, then it's just better news for Kemi Badenoch, and she might need some good news on that particular night if it takes place on the night of the local elections. So we will see. Happy studying. Have fun. Bye-bye.